You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
And welcome to this special edition again of the Ticketstub. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Appel. Alongside of me in the studio is Dick, and this is for our special editions we have, where we interview folks that...
Did you like my name for it?
On
YouTube? If you visit our YouTube channel, we have a playlist now called the post-credit scene.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that.
Of course you didn't.
No.
Punk.
We like to go over creative stuff on the air, you know.
That's true. We
Yeah. But this is going to fall into another one of our interviews that's some extra content. It's going to be on a YouTube channel. We'll post it on social media. But today...
Or we should just call it the Chris and Dick show, because Connor's never here for these.
That's true. He might roll in towards the end of this. We'll see.
But before we get into the interview, I know we're going to talk about that, but real quick, I want to remind folks, we have a message line. You can call in at any time, 24/7, 936-647-3776 with your questions. If you want to win tickets to the Grand Theater here in Conroe, and then also for pretty much anything you want to do with the Ticketstub. We also do have Twitter and Facebook, the Ticketstub podcast, all that good stuff. So whatever way you want to contact us, that's it, 936-647-3776. All right. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, this is very exciting for us because this is our first international guest today.
Ooh.
Yes. So on the line, on Skype, he's joining us through Skype. We have an actor and producer from London. His latest film, you can see, Parallel, is streaming on Amazon. You can check that out. Alexander Cooper is here with us. Alexander, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you very well, loud and clear.
Oh, well, welcome. He's joining us from England, so this is pretty cool.
I'm very, very pleased to be here with you, to have a nice natter with you about things.
Well, so I watched the film Parallel last week, I believe, and I did it a little.
It was our
review.
rewind. Yeah, it was part of our rewind.
I did.
Have both of you seen it, or is it just? Yeah,
just Chris.
It's just for our
rewinds. We all choose an individual movie we like to push, and or not push. Say don't see this movie, but Chris chose your movie.
Yep, and I liked it on the show. I really enjoyed it. But I guess my first question is how, and you produced that film. How do you go about producing it? Like how did you get involved with that project?
Sure. Well, I wasn't always in film production. So it was a couple of years ago. There were a lot of changes going on at the time. I'd been working in London. I should just explain, I'm about 90 miles north of London nowadays.
Okay.
So I'm not actually in London at this time. So I wasn't always doing movies and entrepreneurial stuff, although I have been pretty entrepreneurial anyway. But it was sort of after my father passed away in around 2014. And the idea of making a film, I guess, has been something, that was on my bucket list. And I really wanted to do it. And it was only around sort of the end of 2014. And I really wanted to make a film because I had a sort of break in the normal sort of office jobs in the city had sort of just dried up because I was doing contracts for different kinds of companies. And I was like law work, and then I was, working in banks and stuff. So that all really changed a lot. And I thought, right, well, you've only got one life, and I wanted to do this. So I started looking around for a script, and I'd also kind of taught myself a bit because there's a book called From Real to Deal by Dove Simmons. Don't know if you've heard of that.
I haven't.
No, it's endorsed by a number of directors like Tarantino, and people have their name on it. Because I didn't want to go to film school. I didn't want that. So I sort of read up around it and just broke it down really into what I would need. And I thought for this one that I really did want to get a script that was unproduced, and I was looking for something quite, high concept, quite original. I thought if I'm going to do something, it has to be something that connects with me in some way. And so I put this ad out on a website called Star Now. And through that, I had various responses, and a guy called David McGowan, who was from Glasgow, he had shown me this script, and I read it, and I was gripped, and I sort of looked through it again. It didn't really take that long before I thought, yeah, this is the fit, and we'll try and do it in the best way we can. We didn't have any backers. As you'll probably guess, we tried to raise funding for it because we thought it'd be nice, if we can get something and do a good job. And so we presented to various investor sort of presentations in the city for businesses trying to get off the ground and get investment. But to no avail. I totally failed.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I was in sort of late stage talks with a guy. He was talking about putting in £10,000, but even that actually fell through.
That's like $4 million. That's like $4 million in American money, I think.
Oh well, there's been a bit of a drop recently.
That was a bad joke.
Yeah,
there, Chris.
it was a bad joke. Yeah.
No. I mean,
Your money
it's not a lot, but
your money is still worth a lot more than ours at this point.
I don't know about, we set our sights quite low. We were looking just to produce something very low budget, but we couldn't even raise that. It was too risky for that fellow, so he dropped out. I tried crowdfunding, of course. Also, that has its challenges, and I raised a little bit from family and friends, but it really was nowhere near enough to get anything off the ground. So I just thought a little bit of a Richard Branson. I thought, screw it, let's do it. We'll do it with, I'll use my savings and my own resources, and I'll just try and keep the production costs low. And then I really just started planning. I looked for who would need. Obviously, David, he'd written the script. He wanted to play Neil.
Now, I did have a question about that, actually.
Yeah.
So he plays Neil, and he also wrote the movie. He has a lot of love. He has a lot of love scenes in this, and I feel like he wrote that specifically for himself. Did you ever get that vibe on set, like he wrote those scenes just so he could do them?
Probably. I mean, he never actually. No, he never sort of said, but he'd written it, I guess, for himself. As we'll talk about the other movie that I prepared and have much more of a screen time in this other film. But yeah. It was his, so I really I thought I'll go with this. I have a very small role, but I did have at least, it was a bit more than the extra stuff that I used to do. I used to be an extra on film sets, on big productions, and I wanted to do something more. So I was happy with the arrangement, and he got to be in the movie that that he had written, so I was okay with that. So we started looking for the rest of the cast, and there were various people, as there always are, sort of coming into the picture, and you think that the cast are going to be a certain way, and then of course when it really happens, various people just dropped out and couldn't do it, or they just didn't like what we were doing. So that the people dropped out. We thought there was a girl who was playing Rihanna. Rihanna was very different. She was an Australian blonde You know, she was totally different. So, you know, she dropped out and had to be replaced by Francesca Scro, the Italian lady. Yeah, I mean, we'd cast the net quite widely. We'd put out ads and we got video auditions of people. Even we met, you know, randomly we met cast around London. I found Daniel it was on a film set, actually. He was in a changing room and I looked at him and I thought, right, well, he actually reminded me slightly of Tom Hardy.
Okay.
I don't know if people see different things in people, but he had something that, you know, I was very happy with.
Well, let me ask you a question about Daniel, because on last week's show, I mentioned that I felt like he should get a screen test from James Bond or for James Bond. And now you know him. Am I way off base on that? Or do you kind of get that vibe from him a little bit?
No, I mean, I honestly think he's a great guy. I think he's a terrific guy with great, you know, work attitude. He's very easy to work with. You know, I can't really recommend anyone more. The cast were awesome. I had no issues with any of the cast. And you know, if that were to happen, then incredible, great stuff for him. I don't know, because I think what happens in the film industry quite often is people, they can be amazing, they can be great, and they don't necessarily get cast for stuff because. Right. There may be lesser known, or there are other forces at work. So, in as much as I could say yes, I could quite see that happening. At the moment, he doesn't have, I don't think, that marketability that probably they want when they're spending a fortune on a cast for a film of that level. You know, they go from Daniel Craig to paying out millions of pounds for the guy. To picking up an unknown. Well, it's not unheard of. I just think it's probably less likely at this stage.
Well, he should just pull
I could totally be wrong.
He should just pull a George Lazenby and just bust up in there and say, "I hear you're looking for James Bond." That's what he should do.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, I think he should give it a go, and if it happens, it happens, and yeah, definitely.
Well, let me ask you about
nothing really.
Yeah, let me ask you about Brian Carter, because he hadn't really done a whole lot of things before he did your film, and I just thought he was really great in this movie. Where did you find him?
Brian did give an incredible performance as Mackless. Again, going there is. We've found them somehow online. A lot of these people. There was another chap, James Petherick, who he interviews the character of Neil. You know, after stuff's been going on, and you know he has that when he's in the office with you know, Melissa, and he's getting told off because you know you've been naughty and you've been going in doing bad stuff, visiting the other side,
right.
So we met him randomly in a pub. We had kind of various casting sessions, and it is kind of quite random because we just found him. We'd gone for a beer. It's like David was staying over in my brother's flat where we were at the time, and some of these casting sessions we just had in central London in the pub there, and stuff it's funny, you know, because it's sort of organic stuff and things happen in different ways that you don't expect. But, you know, I was happy eventually. You know, I was just happy that we got a good, I mean, first attempt at ever making a movie, and I was really happy with it. So.
Was the director, was she already, or I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, but were they attached to the
it's a lady. It's a lady.
Was she attached
Eva.
to the script already when you found the script, or is that somebody you had to find?
No, not at all. looking back, I would have just directed it myself. It would have been much more straightforward.
Okay.
But I was, as I say, I kind of, you can always do things differently. But that would have solved a few issues we had on the shoot if I'd been directing it.
Okay. What, like, were you talking about just like style wise or?
Both. I mean, there's the artistic thing, but it's just there's people. Some of the people we had. I got a guy in a production manager who sort of brought his own crew that he'd worked with before, and they didn't have respect really for us for what we were trying to do. They thought, right, this guy is paying the bill. He's just a producer. It wasn't it wasn't how I would have wanted it. I mean, the Sandow shoot was very different because I could just say, this is what I want, and everyone's asking me the questions about what I wanted from it.
Well, tell me a little bit about Sandow. I'm curious to see that. I saw the trailers that you put out on YouTube. They were out there. It looks really interesting. Can you tell us what the story is?
Thank you. Yeah. It is interesting to me. I've actually been over in Leicester today to a post-production sound studio there, White House Sound, and they do quite a few sort of audio books. They've just done the recent Donald Trump book. They have like the BBC go over there and they do a lot of audio book stuff. And they've sort of been very helpful because the project's taken quite a long time. I was being edited. It started with a girl here. She was sort of a student age and she looked very promising, and I kind of wanted to work with her initially, but then she vanished and she went traveling the world. So that kind of that sort of let me down a bit. So I had to find someone else to replace her, and I basically had found someone again on the internet, and he created the trailers, which you'll have seen on the internet. And I used him. He replaced the other editor, but then he was getting offers of work, and he couldn't devote more time to it. But he's cut the film together. It's about 96 minutes. And basically it's just sorting the sound now, getting everything in the mix and music and and sorry, and I've kind of gone. I was going to tell you about what it is,
right?
So excuse me. Sandow is it's inspired by some real people. So there was a guy in the Victorian times who he traveled the world. He was a circus strongman. He was kind of a huge celebrity superstar, and he was a larger than life character. It was sort of before Arnie and 80s action and all that. In the old days, you had this guy who was going around and lifting huge globe barbells above his head and putting on an amazing show for the crowd. And so the whole idea for it really had come from me hearing about these circus strongmen and me having sort of images of how life might have been for some of these superstar celebrities of the Victorian age. And to me anyway, it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, but to me it was kind of like fascinating. And I just thought, well, this is the film that I wanted to see, so I'll make the film I want to see. I'll get a script together. It was different sort of ghostwriters started on it, and then ultimately it turned out to be quite different because I brought in this character of Launceston Elliott, who I'm playing. Launceston used to tour with the real guy, sort of toured with the real Sandow. But the interesting thing for me was that he trained him for the games, for this Olympic Games, and it was just kind of quite an epic thing. It was almost like he was looking for this mentor to help him get better at things, because he's like naturally good at lifting weight, and he wants to get better at running and climbing ropes, because they do all these things in the Olympics back then that it was all sort of mixture. So it's funny because everyone sort of competes across the board. It's almost like nowadays where we have a CrossFit.
Yeah.
So people doing all these different events, and this was, that's what the Olympics was then. It was like you do a rope climb, and then you wrestle some guy and run 100 meters, and then try and lift heavy weights overhead. So that's kind of what he was trying to do, and it was interesting as well because it's all about Sandow and his personal life and how he's traveling all the time, and just how things are when he's not on stage performing.
Who's playing the lead in the movie?
Yeah, there's a guy called Timo Karvinen, and he's from Finland. He's a big Finn. He's much bigger than the real Sandow would have been. I think the real Sandow was about 5'8" or something. He wasn't a very tall guy. He was like a gymnast, but they called him the perfect man. So this is kind of a special film to me. It's very different to Parallel. It's almost like it's a sports movie, but it's almost like a tale of father and son, and because in a sense he becomes like a father figure to Elliot, and the mentor essentially.
Now, I was going to ask you this because we've been looking through your credits, and you got some really neat credits, like Downton Abbey, that you were on that.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Go ahead. I was an extra on Downton Abbey, so I know in the States, I think people are kind of more open about that. I've done quite a lot of things where I've been on a film set as an extra. So yeah, that was one. We're in Rule's restaurant, and I was actually a waiter on that. But yeah, it was all good fun, and whenever I go around, I've actually met some of the key players. Sometimes, my cousin, she's on The Crown. Do you know the Netflix?
Yes.
Series? Yeah. But do you know Vanessa Kirby? Have you heard of her?
Not off the top of my head.
She's a big part in The Crown. I don't actually watch it though, so I don't know really much about it. But she's one of the leads in The Crown.
Okay.
So I saw her when I was doing the same sort of work for The Crown. I met the director Morton Tildum on another film set, the Imitation Game.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Saw that. If you're a real train spotting nerd, you can see me at a couple of points during that film wearing a moustache. Because the people, they'd often put a false moustache on me on a film set. The guy would probably thought I looked good with a moustache, and I'd often get cast in these period dramas as well. So
what's
I don't know why.
now that you're starting to, because you said 2014 was when you pretty much started doing this. What's your favorite thing you've done so far, as far as just meeting somebody that you admire in the business, or a project that you really enjoyed working on?
Do you mean the sort of the big ones, or the indie features?
Anything.
Well, as far as filmmaking, I could say I was most, I think, as regards to shooting it, I think Sandow, because the crew on that were fantastic. There was a guy called Richard Burtonshaw, who was the DOP on that. Really good to work with. So I can highly recommend him. He's probably, if he's still in the game, he'll be going places, because he's a great guy. That shoot was much more kind of easygoing than the Parallel one, but I'm happy to say that we just motored through Parallel as well. So yeah, I think really for me it was it was the own projects that I've done more than anything. They've been probably my favourite one, even though I've met these big players sometimes. But when you're an extra on a film set, you can see a bit what's going on, but you're not really. You're a bit more like furniture on a set. You're not really acting. For
I am
real.
fascinated by that. We had a fellow on the show last week that did a lot of that, and it was just interesting to hear him say, oh, you can't talk to the main stars. You're not allowed to do that.
No. I mean,
I feel
on
like
the Crown.
that's the perfect time to write a script or to work on other things. I feel like the age of technology with your phone, you could be emailing your DOP on your other movie and, saying,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, there is quite a lot of that. And yeah, fair play. It's just I'm in the country at the moment, and if something's a little bit like sometimes the transport they don't cover stuff like that, and I've just had stuff. I've just been trying to finish this film off, and of late I just haven't done any more of the supporting artist stuff. I mean, sometimes I've been a stand-in as well on some things. And stuff will come up.
That was on Me Before You. Is that right that you did?
Absolutely right. Yeah, and like stand-in, you will stand in for the main cast.
Who did you stand in for? I've actually I reviewed that movie on this podcast. That's why I'm asking.
I'm going to sound quite thick here, but Me Before You, I haven't even seen.
Oh, you should definitely see how ridiculous that movie is.
So. Who is the cast member? Because I'm going to look really thick.
I just know, is it Amelia Clark or Email? What's her first name?
Clark.
Amelia
yeah,
Clark.
She's in there, yeah.
Amelia Clark's in it.
That's the only person I know.
And also, sorry, my cousin's in it as well. She plays Alicia. But do you know what? Because I saw like Charles Dance was on that
but it was
set. I saw him.
You stood in for the lead actor though. Is that right?
I stood in for, it was a youngish guy. Just trying to look him up now, because his name just did not stick in my mind. The people who I remember...
That movie didn't stick in my mind either. The only thing I remember is the things he would do to her.
Really not good? Okay.
It's a romantic movie, so it's definitely one of those movies
but he loves those, so I don't know why he didn't like this one.
Yeah, I watched it with my...
thing.
It was, the concept was just out of control, but it had some magical moments, and so I'm glad you're part of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just in a very, very small way, standing in. I think it was Stephen Peacock I stood in for. Yes, that was who it was. He's according to IMDb, he's an Australian actor known for Home and Away.
Okay.
And so,
so when you were standing in. Yeah. Is like the lead actress or the other actors that are in the film, are they there with you and you're just kind of...
Yeah.
Okay.
So what happens was we were in this airport bit. It was an airport scene. And so while Stephen was away getting ready or probably talking to the director or something, I would just stand in a spot. So holding a trolley, like an airport trolley, while he was, or then sometimes they'd get you to do movements through. So go wheel this trolley through, and just sort of setting things up so that the other cast doesn't have to be there doing that stuff.
See, I find that fascinating.
Well, a lot of it too, Chris, has to do with lighting and also the DOP, because really when you're setting up a shot, some shots are very complex and they don't want to waste either the actor's time, and they might be doing something else. That way they can block the scene, and it's really a lot easier on people to because it's kind of like, remember, to give you a good example, you ever seen the British film Love Actually?
Yep.
Okay, you know the scene, the relationship between the porn scenes when they're they're stand-ins, and that's how you know what I'm talking about. So that's what they are. They're doing the lighting. They're doing. It's that with Martin Freeman. I think that's the actor who played in that specific scene.
This is the second show in a row you've brought up
porn
adult movies. Yeah.
Oh, well,
they're
movies too, bro.
We gotta check that out.
But But one thing I really want to ask
Well,
you, Alexander, is
yeah.
you're on IMDb, and your
Yeah.
bio and stuff mentioned you're working on different projects like Sandow, which I want you don't mind, to let listeners know, is that going to be released? When is it going to be released? And what platforms can they
Yep.
keep an eye on? Where can we see that?
It definitely will be. I mean, I've been building up suspense for so long now. It will be this year.
Okay.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances. But the thing is, we've got a film there. It is literally just getting the sound, because it looks very good. I'm happy with it. But the sound has to match, because Parallel, the sound mix was a bit off. You know, so there were various music tracks that I wanted in that were added, you know, after the main editor had done it, and I had someone else put the extra music in. So some people said this has drowned out some of the actors, what they were saying, and I just want to improve it. I know it's not going to be the level of some of the big productions that, you know, but I want it better than Parallel. If possible, it should be on that front.
Well, that's
So that
exciting. That's
yeah.
exciting. And I know
Yeah.
a couple other movies, genre-wise, I can't pronounce it correctly, but it's Mind Cuff.
Yeah, well, that one actually, because I haven't updated for a while. Yeah, that was in development, but that one has actually gone. Someone else is sort of developing that now, and I'm not really.
Okay.
It's not really one I'm going for now. So no, I'm not. That was an interesting one, but yeah, it's sort of not happening anymore for me. I'm not involved in that one.
Well, whoever's in charge of your IMDb better get on it, man, because I was really interested in that movie, and I had questions, and now I don't. But
okay. The thing is, I guess I do need to update that a bit more than I do. I guess I've been focused on the one that I've been doing right now, and
with the different things you've been involved with, especially making movies over in the UK, what do you see is your favorite position in the filmmaking process, and then also what do you want to focus on after Sandow, because it's been like you said, it's kind of completed in a sense of all the major parts are kind of fit together. It's just kind of fine tuning it. So tell me that if you don't mind.
Exactly. Well, when Sandow, I mean, I had so many hats in that. I produced it, directed, wrote it. I've got one of the lead parts in it. I really enjoyed it. I wished we could have filmed some more stuff. I wish I could have done more action stuff, because I can really do a lot of stuff that no one's seen. I mean, in the Sandow thing, there were various, you know, bits of action, fights and stuff, which just for time and budgetary reasons and things like that had to be sort of dropped, really. I couldn't cover everything, but there were scenes where I would be, you know, wrestling and stuff like that, and it would have been good to do. I really enjoyed all the training montages and all that when Sandow and I are doing this. Just so much fun. I loved it. So there was bits where we went to this like river, and I was running through the water, and I was running over, going to the other side, coming back, running up and down, and basically Sandow, this big Finn, was shouting at me and telling me what a little girl I was, and just, you know, run faster, and it was just a lot of fun. And then, you know, back to this house where I'd hired this house for a bit, and we were doing sort of a similar thing in the garden, just being beasted by this other trainer, and it was all good fun. And then there was a big fight scene that we did there. It was kind of a billiard room. Sandow is attacked by a drunk. I don't want to give away too much, but all of these scenes are just so much fun I love doing the acting. It's fantastic. And then really directing this was great as well, because I think when I'm there, I know what I want, so I was able to tell the DOP, we want this framed like this. He did an amazing job, but sometimes I did have to step in and say, look, I want these people here and it to look, just framing the painting basically, and Richard did a great job. So, I'd happily direct and happily act in things. I guess it's pretty unknown at the moment what this will lead to. From my perspective, I'd love to do more of either of those functions, and producing as well is all good. So yeah, acting, producing, directing.
One thing I did want to mention is, and I mentioned it in the last show when I did the rewind of Parallel, is that I thought it seems like you have a group around you, and yourself included, that has a lot of talent, and it would be nice to have the funding behind that. So I mean, I certainly would encourage anybody who's listening, who's interested in getting involved in the filmmaking business. The script for Parallel was great. And
yes.
It was
it was
wonderful.
I can't take the credit for that. That was David McGowan, who is a great writer. He's had various scripts that he hasn't developed yet. He hasn't had produced. Sorry, but he's great. I mean, I'd love to do a sequel to this one, but like you say, Parallel is still very much under people's radar. I know it's been seen by a fair. It's been seen by a few people, but it's an indie film, and I'm kind of like promoting it myself on Twitter and trying to get reviews and things. But it is a bit like, it's the indie, it's the chicken before the egg. People have to you got to have your fan base to support that, to support that goal. Otherwise, I don't think without that you can't really sustain something. So I really value anyone, if people really like what I'm doing, I really, really value your input and your feedback, and just any comments. It's great just that people are seeing that film.
Well, with that in mind, then we're going to be wrapping it up. Don't let the listeners know, how can they give their feedback to you. I know, do you have any social media, especially with your movie being released this year, Sandow, like it's on IMDb. I found you on IMDb, Alexander Cooper. Anything else like that? Like let the audience know.
Well, the film Sandow, it's going to be on Amazon Video again, and it'll be at sandowthemovie.com. When it comes out. I don't actually have a date for that yet, because I went to see them today. Basically, they have to look at what the scope of the job, but I don't foresee it taking more than a few weeks or a month at most, by which time I'm just going to have to do what's necessary again to get it online. I think that's, for me, that's probably the best thing I can do at this point. I mean, I had a go on Vimeo before, but I don't think it was really any better than Amazon and Netflix. I've tried Netflix and Hulu, but I didn't have any joy with those guys. So I think I'm sticking with Amazon for now.
Well, it's definitely a good platform. But
it's good. It's good.
But Alexander, I mean, thank you so much for doing this. This was really cool.
Not at all. Thank you very much for having me.
We definitely, and you are welcome anytime. Especially when you release Sandow, maybe you can come back and give us a little update on that. We'd love that for sure. But
I'd love to, and I think it will be quite obvious because you follow me in Twitter, correct?
Yes.
Because I do. Twitter's big for me because I obviously have Facebook, but I find that Twitter's great because I connect with people in the industry, and that's really the main thing that I use. So if people come on there and review it, and I love getting all reviews across the board, if they're average, good, bad, whatever. And so there, I think it'll be quite obvious if you follow me. It'll be obvious that it's coming out, and then I can send you a screener, and hopefully you'll enjoy that one as well.
Great. Well, like we were saying, Parallel's available on Amazon streaming, so definitely everybody check that out. And Alexander Cooper on Twitter as well. He's very active, almost 24/7. You're on there 24/7. I've noticed. But Alexander,
I'm on there a fair bit.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
on there a fair bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Speak soon. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Let's begin, pal.
Thank you for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station. Don't forget to check out this show and many others across the Lone Star Community Radio Network, either live on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, the Lone Star Internet Radio app, or irlonestar.com's live audio stream, and on replay on podcast, Channel 12's Our City TV in Conroe, or Channel 21 KVQT in Houston, and of course their YouTube channel. This production is copyrighted and all rights are reserved by Lone Star Community Radio. Have a question regarding this program or other Lone Star Community Radio shows? Want to sponsor or start your own show? Call the station message line at 936-647-3776 or email the station at lscrstudios@gmail.com.